just interrupt you for a second. Just, again, short, quick, lively answers, entertaining. We're not selling. It's not even so much about stem cells. It's really about the future, longevity, 10 years, your predictions.
10 years, content.
10, and we're going to ask each of you, or some of you, 2 or 3 little tips you do every day to live to 100 or something. Yeah. It's really, I mean, it's...
You can start.
That we do, or
Yeah.
kind of other people do?
You can put about...
So it's about anti-aging.
Yes, it is. That's what the title
Trying
is.
to give content.
It's
Okay.
2029. It's anti-aging.
Okay, well, we're going to get started now.
Meaningful.
And
I tell my patients not to exercise.
we're going to get started now. So if you could, we're recording, and this is going live out on the internet. So noises count. So please, 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 careful with the plates and the dishes and the silverware. Okay, and we're going to start in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my great pleasure to be here at the first International Congress on Stem Cells by the American Association of Stem Cell Physicians. And it's my honor to be amongst you all, amongst the leadership, the vanguard of physicians and scientists who are practicing stem cell technologies and who are blazing a new technology, a new path for the future of healthcare, not just cardiology or neurology or orthopedic medicine or urology or any one-ology. It's really about the entirety of healthcare. And with stem cell technology, we're looking for answers. We're looking for answers to the problems of aging-related disease. And aging-related disease is a terrible problem. You know, we don't talk about it very much, but the reality is that every day 150,000 people die on this planet. 150,000 people dead. And how many of those people die because of accident? About 8%. And how many people die because of infection or severe disease? Okay, it's about 23%. The point of the matter is that aging-related disease is responsible for two-thirds of all deaths. So people are dying prematurely from aging-related disorders that one day will not die. And this conference is all about finding the answers to those aging problems and about the new technologies of stem cells, growth factors, and other very exciting things that are going on in the field of biotechnology, in the field of longevity medicine, anti-aging medicine, regenerative medicine, whatever you want to call it. It has many names, but this is the next generation of healthcare. And I'm very pleased to be one of the moderators here. My partner is Dr. Joel Kahn, a cardiologist, a very famous cardiologist, who will be helping to lead this discussion with a panel.
I appreciate that, but you haven't told anybody who you are, and everybody in the room knows who you are, but tell the world who you are.
I'm happy to do that. I'm Dr. Ron Klatz, and I am the president and founder of the American Academy of Anti-Aging Medicine, the world's largest. Thank you. Thank you so much. The world's largest preventive medicine organization. Okay, we are the vanguard, the first organization to take the position that aging is no longer inevitable, that aging is a disease process, and that this disease process can be intervened, just like any disease process. And so every one of us should be looking forward to a life expectancy of 100, 110, 120, perhaps 150, perhaps more. And that's what I call practical immortality. And thank you. And by practical immortality, that's really the purpose of this panel, which is achieving practical immortality by 2029. Is that possible? Do we have the technology? And at this conference, we've been talking about those technologies, and I'm going to put it to the panel whether that technology to achieve practical immortality, life expectancies in excess of 100, will be available within the next 10 years, next 15 years.
And I'll just throw in a neat statistic, which is if you were able to cure right now every case of diabetes, heart disease, and cancer, it's been estimated would extend human lifespan by 13 years. But when we can tackle aging and actually get a handle on this process that Dr. Klatz has been speaking about, it's been estimated will prolong life by 30 years. So we need to do both, but this is a shift in medicine to really not just extend lifespan, but what's called health span, so we can actually enjoy those years. And as my friend Russell Jeffy says, I just want to be 120 and I want you dancing with me, is kind of the goal. Health span, lifespan, aging.
And this technology is at hand. And that's why I'm so pleased to have such an excellent group of leaders in the field of biology and clinical practice. And I would like each one of the panelists to take a moment to introduce themselves and to just say a little bit about what it is that they're doing in regard to longevity medicine.
Hey everyone, I'm Dr. Mike Renzulli. I'm a naturopathic physician, so my perspective is an integrated approach from the beginning. I offer a family of cosmetic, anti-aging medical devices that help people look good, feel good, non-invasively and minimally invasively. I'm really, honestly, I just have to say, I'm honestly is grateful to be among a panel and a group of people. We are the leaders, like Dr. Klatz said. I'm just grateful to be a part of, we are the vanguard and we have a lot to contribute here. Thank you.
Hi everybody, my name's Dr. Ian White. Where's the camera? That's it, right there, that's where. My name's Dr. Ian White, and I spent about 20 years in academia working with stem cells, and I've recently made the transition from academia so that I can bring my knowledge to a lot more patients. We're working on really exciting stuff that really has met a challenge transitioning from the bench to the bed, and that's kind of my mandate moving forward, is to really take this technology further, make it available to the public. I'm currently the Chief Scientific Officer for IMAC Regeneration Centers, and we're really trying to pioneer a lot of the very special things that are associated with stem cells and stem cell products. So I'm extremely happy to be here, and I'm excited to talk with all of you today.
Well, hello everyone. My name is Joe Parita, and I guess the camera's not getting me. That's Dr. Klatz. I'm Joe Parita. Anyway, my name is Joe Parita. I'm an orthopedic surgeon by training. I've been in orthopedics for many years, and about 13, 14 years ago, I started getting involved with stem cells in a big way. And at that time, I was getting a lot of flack from all sorts of people saying, you're a very reputable orthopedic surgeon. Why are you going out on this tangent? And they were really giving me a lot of slings and arrows. And now I feel vindicated because these same guys say, hey, can we come and train with you? To me, what goes around comes around. But this is a field I think that's, I'm really realizing now it's not just orthopedics. I'm doing a lot of autoimmune diseases and things like that. There's a lot of things that we're going to make better. And it made me a better person and a better doctor by learning all the molecular biology and things like that. So there's a lot to go on here.
I'm Dr. Frank Toscano. I'm the owner of Red Bamboo MediSpa in Clearwater, Florida. We've been in business for about 10 years. And about 8 years ago, we started using more anti-aging and platelet-rich plasma techniques rather than using neuromodulators and facial fillers and other more temporary solutions. I feel that even though aesthetics is not life-saving, all of our patients have some element of psychological pain, whether it's the wrinkles or the sagging or the aging or a little pooch of fat that they are uncomfortable with. And if we can get them more confident about themselves, they're a happier individual, they'll be more healthy, and they'll live longer. And doing this with anti-aging techniques is far preferable to doing it with artificial.
I'm Martin Dayton. I practice integrative medicine. I've been practicing integrative medicine since 1973. My academic degrees are DO and MD. My focus in practice is to improve general health, prevent disease, and this is something that I've been doing since 1973. We're looking at the basics, that is, looking at removing or reducing various factors that prevent optimal function and repair, and we also look at what we could augment to improve function and repair. It's really that simple. There are new substances and strategies that are coming along every day, and I try to stay on top of it. That's why I'm here.
Hey, good evening. My name is Doug Spiel. I'm a physician out of New Jersey. I own a private practice there. I'm also the chief medical officer of Chimera Labs, a company that makes stem cell products known as Exosomes. My career has changed over the years. About 20 years ago, I came out as a board-certified radiologist, and I practiced level 1 trauma radiology for a number of years. For about 18 years, I've been doing interventional pain. I was the first radiologist in the country to get boarded in interventional pain. And I've done a lot of different things with that, and it's afforded me a lot of abilities to access certain areas of the bodies utilizing image-guided therapy. So I use x-rays, I use ultrasounds, and the like. When I stepped upon and stumbled upon regenerative therapy, I realized that this was a way not just to make patients better, but to fight off diseases before they occurred. You're going to ask us a number of questions tonight, and we're going to hopefully answer them for you. But one of the things that I want you to realize is that today's technology can help you now. This is not something that's off in the future. It's not something that we hope our children's children embrace. You're going to hear many specialists talk tonight about therapies that you can utilize now to actually live longer. So I hope as you take this journey with us, you all realize that the images that we're going to share with you tonight and the stories are real stories from real patients today.
Hello everyone, my name is Peyman Taidi. I'm actually a scientist for the last 10 years. My background is actually started with the islet cells and pancreatic islet cells and encapsulation the islets. And stem cells was a very fascinating technology for me that I started to look a little bit deeper on that. And I started with the adipose tissue, and I've done lots of studies on that, how the SVF works and all that. However, the technology is moving forward very quickly, and my company right now is focusing on the umbilical cord blood and umbilical cord tissue cells, and it's very fascinating how these cells working as far as signaling your own stem cells body, and with all the growth factors that it already has, that it helps to actually, as the doctor said, we need to prevent actually. So I can say that these products is actually helping for preventing the other infection or any other type of diseases. And we were wasting these type of products. I mean, as far as cord blood and cord tissue, probably until 2 years ago. But now, again, the technologies that we are learning, there are a lot to learn and there are a lot to achieve. And based on what we are doing and what we are seeing, the results is very fascinating. Of course, these are all experimental. There are more clinical studies under the way. And I like to be I'm trying to be part of some of the studies like at Duke University and other universities as well. And I see that, again, the technology is moving forward very quickly. And that helps the people to live longer. And of course, it has to be follow with the diets and other type of helping. So.
Good.
My name is Dr. Jeffrey Weiss. I'm honored to be included to sit at this table with these esteemed gentlemen. I am an ophthalmologist, more specifically a retinal specialist. When I left academics at Harvard, I came to Florida. I opened a private practice. As an ophthalmologist, the most horrible thing to me is a patient who has lost their vision. And for many years, we have so many conditions that we say are, quote, untreatable. And that always upset me. And the patients would say, well, are they working on it? Well, I came to realize there is no they, there's me. So I began to work on these, quote, untreatable conditions that cause blindness. In 2010, I did the first retinal stem cell surgery in the world. I had to go to Germany to operate on 2 Americans because I was not allowed to by the FDA in this country. In 2011, I did 7 American patients in Vienna, Austria, again, because I could not do it here in this country. November 2012, I have an institutional review board study that's approved. We are registered with NIH. We are listed on clinicaltrials.gov. I have now operated on more than 500 patients in this country. We have 7 articles in peer-reviewed journals. We published 3 seminal papers, the first papers in history to show improvement in Leber's hereditary optic neuropathy, non-autoretic ischemic optic neuropathy, and retinitis pigmentosa. And I hope to continue this work. Thank you.
My name is Duncan Ross. I'm the CEO and founder of Chimera Labs. My background is I have a PhD in biochemistry and immunology, specifically in bone marrow transplantation and the suppression of graft versus host disease. So the control of inflammation has always been very interesting to me. And as I was studying leukemias, I was aware of the use of bone marrow in other types of diseases, and that became very interesting to me when I left school. And just following and working with you physicians for the last 6 years, I was able to see many outcomes using stromal vascular fraction, bone marrow transplantation, et cetera, even the expansion of stem cells. And that fortunately led me to the understanding that old cells aren't quite as good as young cells. And so now I focus on young placental exosomes and the different functions that those have. And one of the big ones is the suppression of inflammation. So as we talk about aging today, you can almost link anything back to inflammation at this point. So I'm very proud to be here. I'm very proud to have this guy over there as one of my partners, and to meet everyone else. Like Dr. Parab, I've been following for quite a long time. So it's nice to be here. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Well, I have a question.
You're double mic'd, but go
Hi.
for it.
I have a question. What is the most interesting part of this conference? What did you hear that you think is going to lead to practical increases in health and potential human lifespan from this conference in the last 2 days?
And Dr. Klatz and he's the good cop, I'm the bad cop. So we're just going to take 3 people to answer that question. Otherwise, we'll be here till midnight. Maybe we'll take 3. Well, go ahead, Doug.
Well,
I was going to say 3 scientists, which you are, but go for it.
All right, so I think one of the most salient points that anyone who came to the conference here should realize, we talk a lot about different types of stem cells, autologous from you for you, allogeneic from someone else for you. And the basic take-home and most sentinel point is that no matter what stem cells we utilize, all we're really doing is kick-starting your own body. What do I mean by that? Very simply, every portion of your body is riddled with stem cells, cells that are almost liver, almost spleen, almost lung, almost neural tissue. The problem is that they lay quiescently and sleep. What we need to do to wake them up is introduce either cells or messengers from cells, such as exosomes, to really kickstart them and give those cells that are sleeping in their beds a cup of coffee and say, come with me, walk the road, start differentiating, do what you were really meant to do.
Thank you. We're going to pass that same question to Ian White.
So it's, I completely agree with Doug there. So From my perspective, our entire body is completely full of stem cells. Every single tissue in our body has stem cells. And as an example, if we were to magically remove all the stem cells from your body right now, you'd probably have just a few hours to live because your body is constantly regenerating. The way that I see the future of this field is that we're able to harness that power that's already within our own bodies. We're able to communicate with those cells, reactivate them, re-energize them through cellular therapies and through potentially exosomes. But we need to re-engage those cells, we need to educate those cells, and we need to make sure that those cells know what to do because they're really quiescent. They're very tired, they're very sleepy. When you're very old, you're losing a lot of cells. Your demand for stem cells goes up, but the pool of stem cells goes down. And so with stem cell therapy, you're able to reactivate that pool and you really re-energize the regenerative potential of the body. So that's my 2 cents.
Very much. And the last answer to the question for Dr. Jeff Weiss.
Well, I was
Your
most
wow moment. Your wow moment.
I was most impressed with the fact that I'm not alone, that I'm not working in a vacuum, that there are many people here with similar interests and desires and force of will to continue working in this field. And I am so encouraged the fact that together we can do so much more. A house divided cannot stand, and with increasing regulation, it's important for there to be a unified, focused, rigorous voice in this field so quality health care can be performed.
Thank you. Well, Dr. Klatz and I came up with a question about telomeres, shifting focus a little bit, and the fact that the Nobel Prize in Medicine was given in 2009 for the discovery, yet here we are 9 years later, and there's not a lot being talked about at this conference. So we'll take another few answers. Do you think it's fading in importance as we look to the next 10, 11 years of longevity research, anti-aging research? Is it just awaiting a breakthrough, and is it anything you use in practice? Maybe Dr. Dayton to start off with.
One of the problems with the field of telomeres is there's a lot of conflicting information. Studies that conflict on methods of evaluating telomeres, and also you have problems with conclusions that the different researchers have. So it's difficult to come to a conclusion when there's so much conflicting information. And telomeres are they're like tails at the end of chromosomes. And I've always wondered if the chromosome is wagged by the tail or the tail is wagging the chromosome. And I don't think we have the answers to these questions yet.
Has anyone died of short telomeres? I mean, I wonder, because I hear, the telomeres were such a hot topic and so widely reported in the scientific literature for many years, and I'm looking for the dead bodies. Who's died because they have short telomeres? A normal adult, not someone with Wilson's disease, but who has run out of telomere length, where their body has, reached a point where it no longer reproduces. And I would love to hear an answer from someone who feels comfortable to answer that.
I just want to ask also, I'm curious of this table, how many people have had their own telomeres checked? Seriously? Okay. Yeah, I thought it would be
That's four.
How did you have your telomeres checked?
SpectraCell, an average white cell.
You gave a blood sample.
Right.
Well, I can't think of a single cell in the blood that I would be interested of its size of its telomeres. If there's only 2 cells I can think of right now, and maybe Ian can help me, which is a long-term hematopoietic stem cell or a mesenchymal stem cell that is in its own niche, that I would care what its telomere length is. Because otherwise you're looking at all kinds of leukocytes that there's no point in looking at those, actually. Those replicate rapidly, they die, they're replaced by other cells from the bone marrow, from those HSCs that I'm talking about. So until you're going to start pulling people's bone marrow and looking at those telomeres, you're not going to come to any understanding.
Okay.
Last answer.
To take a different point of view, I like the work of Dr. DiPinero from Harvard. He kind of says, hey, telomeres kind of are a unified form of aging. And what he said is telomeres cause DNA damage, and then it sort of gets picked up by, and we then get senescent cells. And everything is all tied together. When you sort of have telomere damage, you then get senescent cells. Hopefully the P53 gene picks them up and kills them. But when they don't, we start getting a lot of bad problems. So I think telomeres are important. It's certainly not the answer. Now, in reference to Ron's question, I think there's a lot of literature out there that a lot of diseases seem to have short telomeres. I mean, it's very much in the scientific literature. And we know, for instance, progeria, the disease of young kids, very short telomeres. So I think it's not as important as we thought, but you know, everything we're going to talk about tonight, it's just one facet of aging. You know, I mean, and that's it. And I think if we can get the telomeres longer, and in reference to Duncan, you know, I don't think it's a matter of, okay, they're long or they're short. I'd like to see what's happening with certain treatment protocols. If all of a sudden I see a trend, because we do one type of stem cell that we're finding is increasing the telomere length of the immune system, and I think that's where things are important. You're as healthy as your immune system.
Go.
So everybody in this room probably is familiar what telomeres are, but for those watching at home, you may not be aware, but telomeres are basically the ends of chromosomes. In order to replicate a cell, when a cell wants to divide, it has to replicate its DNA. And in order to do that, we have certain proteins that bind to the DNA, and they're able to transcribe the DNA. But as they do that, the end that they sit on is lost. So every time the cell divides, you lose a portion of the DNA. And once that protein makes its way into the transcribable and active codon, then you start to lose genetic information, so the cell dies. So the question of telomeres is basically how long until the cell dies, because you start losing genetic information until that non-transcribed portion of the chromosome is completely used up. So just to sort of let everybody else know at home what telomeres are.
In
Thank you.
in the media recently, there's been a lot of talk about senolytics, new drugs that help to remove old cells from the body, and the scientists who report on this, at least in animal studies, are claiming a 30% increase in maximum lifespan, which is unprecedented. And now we're looking at people who are taking the drug rapamycin, because rapamycin happens to be a very popular senolytic agent. And we're looking at people using quercetin, which is a nutritional substance you can get at almost any good health food store, which is a natural senolytic. Is there anyone here who's familiar with this research and who would like to discuss it? Please, Dr. Peretta.
Okay. Actually, I helped design a couple of supplements for the supplement field in this field. Now, one thing I'm kind of working on is something called the P53 gene. That's the granddaddy. That's called the tumor suppression gene. And if you can the problem is 50 or 80% of our cancers have a mutation of that gene. Now, if we can get that gene to work more efficiently, we're going to have something very special. Senolytic agents are good. And there's one from Johns Hopkins, I believe. It's UBX0101. They're using it for osteoarthritis, and they've had some phenomenal results, putting it into a joint as an injection. So I'm really high on senolytic agents. I think that's going to be one nail in the coffin of arthritis and a lot of diseases of aging.
Duncan?
One thing I can say that because I've looked at recent data from about 3 or 4 months ago at the International Society of Extracellular Vesicles meeting. And whereas Doug and I actually have been worried about the anti-inflammatory abilities of exosomes. We know we want inflammation to treat tumors, right? But now, if we think about an elephant's 100 copies of P10, why they don't get cancer and we only have 2, the messenger RNA for these tumor suppressors that you're talking about are present in exosomes from younger tissues. That's why younger tissues don't get cancer. So in vitro, just the exosomes from an umbilical cord cell have been shown to stop the proliferation of myeloid dysplasias. So I don't know how far that research is going to go, but that's...
No, I think we always have to be careful manipulating the human body. In the cardiology world, we had the CANTOS trial in November where we lowered C-reactive protein through an interleukin antibody, and it did improve cardiovascular outcome, but there was a rise in infection and a drop in cancer. And when you sort all that out, it's very unclear. That's not a drug that would be commercialized for cardiovascular disease due to the cost, but the methotrexate trial on cardiovascular disease will be announced in November and was stopped prematurely, and nobody knows why. I think for a positive result is the rumor. So we want to shift. It's going to be Halloween in a few months. Summer's going by, and the vampires are out, and we're talking about sucking blood, young blood into older bodies, something called Parab Iosys. But Dracula was the first anti-aging doctor, perhaps. So who would like to comment? You want to comment on that?
Yes, I will comment. Parab Iosys actually started around the Civil War in 1864. A guy named Burt started putting, they're known as heterochronic animals, old animals together with young animals. And the studies have been followed for many years, as recently as Stanford University has done it, where they will suture old rats to young rats. And one of the things with these heterochronic pairings, and it's very interesting, we know they're not actually stimulating each other's, they're not sharing stem cells, but they're sharing some kind of a lifeblood, if you will, so that the older rats get younger and the younger rats get older. And so there's a lot of things that have been sought as, what is this fountain of youth? So there's a couple of companies on the West Coast. They're much more forward thinkers than us East Coast guys. So there's Ambrosia and Alkahest, and you can go into either one of those, and you can essentially go and get a couple of liters of plasma, and if you're an old person with Parkinson's or someone else, you can infuse yourself some young blood from some younger people. And the theory is that your Alzheimer's will get better and you'll feel younger. But what's really behind that? If you imagine that all the stem cells of your body are attached to capillaries, and they release their products and their secretions, those secretions get in the blood, and if the blood is shared between two animals, then the stem cell secretions, very dilutely, or the plasma that you're getting at one of those two places are probably getting in. And what is that doing? So just like Ponce de Leon has essentially 400 years ago searched the whole globe in order to find the fountain of youth, I think that's what we've been trying to get at with Parab Iosys. Importantly, the reason the fountain of youth works is that these secretions, whatever is non-cellular in these mixing of the two populations of plasma within the two animals, it basically effectually turns up the inherent stem cells of both animals or turns them down accordingly. So if you're an older individual, you will recapitulate the secretions of your youth, and therefore whatever stem cells are still on board living in niches throughout your body, they'll start working better.
We weren't sure we were going to hear about secretions of youth, so thank you for adding that into the conference. Any other thoughts? I know there was a recent study with Parab Iosys and brain levels of a protein called TET2, and so that's just something that might be a marker that might be commercialized down the road, but yeah. Okay. Yeah. GDF11 is being a protein that can be affected by Parab Iosys.
Sure. One of the things I'm involved with, it's a very unusual cell. It's called a V cell, very small embryonic-like stem cell. It's found in the patient. It's maybe a third or smaller size than a regular cell. Now, we've done a number of cases where we've taken it from either a daughter or a granddaughter or a grandson and given it back to a parent or grandparent. We think that that may be one of the clues of maybe what's going on. These cells are very finicky, but they're very potent. So that's one of the things that, at least my thoughts are, it's definitely the secretions, but it also may be these V cells. And I suggest you go online and read a bit more about them.
Dr. Klatz, next topic.
Who wants to speak about autophagy?
Autophagy, self-eating. We talked about drinking blood, now we're talking about self-eating. Well,
And no opinions?
well, I'll take it. So this is obvious. This is the theory of aging, that it's your garage just getting full of garbage. You never take the garbage out, never take the garbage out. You can't park your car anymore. It's not really a functional garage. You got to clean it out. And our cells, over time, accumulate all kinds of metabolic byproducts until the cell becomes non-functional and dies. But there's reparative mechanisms called autophagy. The reason I've been particularly interested is I'm the bad cop. I use nutrition a lot in my practice, and it's been a breakthrough in the last year and a half to two that there are nutrition-based plans that have clearly been shown to up autophagy associated with decreased inflammation, decreased markers of cardiometabolic poor health, and actually cause stem cells to be released naturally from the bone marrow. And that's all something called the fasting mimicking diet, something I do every month for 5 days, 800 calories a day, 5 days in a row, and everything sort of stops hurting for another month until you choose to do it again or skip a little. But this is something that was the focus of the Nobel Prize in Medicine in 2016, and there's a translatable, actually very safe program, and just if you're not aware of what a fasting mimicking diet is, please look at that up later, because it's a unique ability that's out there now and being used by thousands and thousands of people, and it's food, which is very cool. I don't know how many people have ever tried the little white box and done the fasting mimicking diet. You got to do it. It's olives. It's actually plant-based ketosis for 5 days. You do get ketone bodies. You can measure them. Fasting mimicking diet. There's a commercial name, but it's easy enough to find. It's calorie restriction for 5 days, and then when you refeed, your stem cells appear in the bloodstream. So,
another advantage that can be obtained from caloric restriction, fasting, and also sauna. Sauna, heat shock proteins seem to help the body to eliminate debris as well. And so that's
quercetin,
interesting.
we were talking.
Quercetin, we mentioned that earlier.
Onion, apple, garlic, or quercetin. Maybe green tea, maybe acai berry. There's a few things have been said to kick your autophagy
ashwagandha has
up.
been implicated recently too.
Ashwagandha.
But Dr. Doug Spiel, I think you have something to say.
Well, there's a couple of pieces of literature that add predicate evidence to some of that. In line with the fact that our bodies are constantly losing cells and we're dying every day, we're actually regenerating. What happens is with age is that the apoptosis or death that we go through, we can't keep up with regeneration. When you talk about autophagy and death and apoptosis, it's our burden as scientists and medical doctors to try to increase the regenerative capacity by upregulating your stem cells. And when you talk about other forms of autophagy, I think we should also talk about predicate evidence of protein aggregate disease. So with protein aggregate disease, there's some good examples in the neuroliterature. Alpha-synuclein, which is a protein that will accumulate in patients with Parkinsonism. There's tau and beta amyloid in people who have Alzheimer's. There's Huntington protein in people who have Huntington chorea. And it's actually been shown that stem cells have at least 2 methods of getting rid of these protein aggregates to get you back on the path of life.
Right. Thank you very much. Any other comments on autophagy, fasting mimicking diets as a future strategy for longevity, which is, a very exciting topic?
Well, this is the sad part about being a PhD. I was giving a talk in Bogota, and I'm standing up there, and my background is immunology. You can speak about any protein you want, isotypes of that protein, but they're in Colombia. So they immediately started asking me, well, what foods would you use to be anti-inflammatory? And I had to stand there with this blank look on my face with no ideas. So I would love to hear from my physician partners here.
It's certainly something I write and talk about. Amongst, number one, it's more plants than animals. If you look at markers like C-reactive protein, ginger, rosemary, turmeric are the 3 highest. They actually drop TNF-alpha and other markers. Dark chocolate as an anti-inflammatory. It's certainly, a polyphenol, good for endothelium, but we'll go for it since everybody loves dark chocolate. And if I speak against it, it's going to be a very unpopular symposium. Just a small amount every day. Other anti-inflammatory foods. Anybody want to throw any out? Potentially pomegranates tend to be on the list. They certainly alter cholesterol structure and content, HDL activation. Blueberries actually activate autophagy. They're on the list of things that have been studied.
OPC3.
Yeah, OPC. Green tea, black tea. There's actually a study using green tea plus Earl Grey with bergamot that actually has been shown to promote autophagy and self-feeding, self-repair. A little different than specifically saying inflammation.
So Moringa oleifera has 36
The
anti-inflammatory
miracle tree,
properties.
moringa.
Miracle plant
Yeah.
has 46 anti-cancer properties. As we all know, bromelain, most powerful anti-inflammatory plant, is what, 2? So Moringa oleifera is a very powerful addition to somebody looking to really to increase the.
Yeah, so if you didn't hear what the answer was moringa, which can be a powder, which can be put in a smoothie, which can be a capsule, which can be a tea, which can be a soap bar. I think I have every version of moringa at home.
And new exciting technology that is presenting itself very recently is CRISPR, gene editing. And certainly gene editing technology is going to play a big role in all aspects of the future of medicine. Direct gene therapy for people, and also in the laboratory for modulating animals for research, and also for helping to discern the metabolic pathways and the genetic pathways of disease process. Does anyone familiar with CRISPR technology, breakthroughs in CRISPR?
If not, we can talk about dark chocolate again. That was popular. Anybody want a CRISPR comment?
I sadly think CRISPR has a long way to go.
Oh, well, please tell us.
And
Explain why.
recent public, I mean, it's something I'm interested in peripherally because of my biochemistry, but there is always, you can sequence a genome, but my genome's not like your genome. And what's been found is that, yes, you can target that one part of the genome you have, but there are lots of other non-specific mutations that are being caused by it. And I personally think there's a long way to go before you can stop that, and you will never be able to foresee it because I have different nucleotide structures than you do. So it's always going to be sort of a hit and miss type of thing, Russian roulette, and people are slowing down on it. In fact, I think the last FDA trial was stopped. So that's correct. So but it was very exciting for a while. I mean, if you could be that specific, then yeah. But if you really think about the DNA recombination machinery and how it's one nucleotide off and it's going to cut, I don't know. That's the way I look at it.
Thank you very much, Duncan. So one of the, oh, go ahead, certainly.
I think one little quick thing for some of the audience out there, when we do CRISPR, we're basically cutting a little snippet of DNA and replacing it with another snippet that we think is more normal, so to speak. So kind of so they get an idea what we're talking about.
Right. You know, there's a condition called familial hyperlipidemia, and a person in a million has a cholesterol of 1,000 will have a heart attack by age 10, and we know the gene, and that would be an awesome, opportunity to give a 9-year-old a cholesterol of 150 without medication, but that's the hope. So one of the topics we wanted to talk about that it'd be interesting to see is the microbiome. When we talk 10 years from now, will we be having novel therapies of our trillions of friends that are living inside of us, and will we be able to alter them through the natural ways we talk about, diet, fermented foods, and avoiding processed foods? Are we going to have breakthroughs? I'll just share with you, because some of you may not know this, the Cleveland Clinic identified in 2011 a new metabolite called TMAO, trimethylamine N-oxide, which, if elevated in the bloodstream, causes your arteries to take up cholesterol into foam cells more aggressively, shuts down your HDL, shuts down your kidneys, and is a new biomarker that's able to be tested. It seems to be related to choline and carnitine through eggs, red meat, or supplements. So they announced at the Cleveland Clinic this week and published in Nature Medicine a blocker, very interesting, called a C-cut. It's a choline analog, so you'll be able to have your egg yolks, your red meat, and take the choline analog. Now, this was in mice, and they'll have to do human studies, but they're very optimistic that we, within just 7 years' time, found a new marker, and maybe not just a marker, actually causative metabolite for, very serious disease, and are on the path of a new way to manipulate, actually, bacteria in the microbiome by blocking choline receptors and faking them. So anybody with microbiome thoughts, the future, longevity, health? Are we doing microbiome testing on our patients in clinic? Is that too early?
I'd like to say something.
I think you're entitled there.
Well, with regard to microbiomes, it's a topic of discussion at the American Academy of Anti-Aging Medicine. And the evidence is that altering your microbiome can alter all aspects of your health, not just digestion, but your your mental attitude, depression, your processing speed of information, because we do have trillions of bacteria in our gut, and our gut is our second brain, and we are controlled by the secretions and the digestion that occurs within our gut. And so having a healthy microbiome is essential, because the microbiome controls inflammation within the body. It controls our blood pressure, controls almost all aspects of our health, and is very poorly appreciated and just now becoming somewhat understood. There have been people, and many people, and many reports of people with very severe GI disease, such as ulcerative colitis, who have been essentially cured by transplant, by fecal transplant, which is designed specifically to change their microbiome. So I think we've only just begun to hear about the benefits of this. Is there anyone else?
Entirely. Yes, sir.
I think it's very critical to be careful with how we manipulate the microbiome. And we've seen the disasters that have occurred with C. diff and the overuse of antibiotics, not only in hospital environments, but also in our food sources. So there is an enormous amount of money being spent fighting human disease that's caused by disruptions in the microbiome. If we can do more research on this aspect, I think we can save money and save lives. Recently, I had back surgery, and before going into the hospital, they cultured me for MRSA. And in my day job, I'm an emergency physician, and we all have MRSA. And so my MRSA swab came back positive, and I had to be treated with antibiotics and scrubs before I could enter the operating room and before I could enter the hospital. We are carrying bugs in us and on us. And I think that there's been a lack of attention to how we keep our bug population healthy. And I think that's something we need to focus a lot on.
Good, thank you. Ian, take.
So just a quick sort of word on that. So my original background in another life was as a parasitologist. So I'm fascinated by the interaction between parasites and the human immune system. And one of the things we learned was that, we evolved over a very long period of time. And one of the issues that we're seeing now is an over-sterilization. And a lot of autoimmune diseases are actually unheard of in countries where you have chronic intestinal infection with parasites, systemic infection with parasites. Our immune system is so naive that using these antibacterial soaps and not letting our children eat off the floor. So I think that we're in a situation where we're over-sterilizing and our immune system is completely out of whack. So there's a lot to be said to be more commensal with the microbiome, and also I'm not saying that we should go out and purposely infect ourselves with parasites, although a lot of parasitologists over the years have done that. But I'm just saying that we need to be careful of over-sterilization, overuse of antibacterials, antibiotics, because this is how we evolved. This is how our immune system learned to work. And we're really messing with a system that has evolved over millennia, and we're putting it out of whack. We're really screwing around with our immune system because we're over-sterilizing. So that's my...
In one of the hospitals where I work, you are required to use the hospital soap before you see every patient. And in fact, they haven't done this to the physicians yet, but the nursing staff have ID badges that track where they are, so they can be tested on whether or not they are making a trip to the sink to wash their hands before seeing each patient. Now, I'm all in favor of cleanliness and not transferring bacteria from one patient to the other, but that antibacterial soap that they use causes the back of my hands to break out and weep and be open and even more susceptible to infection.
Well, Well, don't give up the microphone. So the next topic is a quickie one, which is 3 personal habits you do for your own personal plan to be alive and healthy in 2029. Everybody here is in regeneration and longevity research or longevity practices, so I'll kick it off. I use an infrared sauna almost every day. I practice transcendental meditation every day, and I've eaten a plant-based diet for 40 years. So that's my big 3. Now, I could tell you a lot of, but that's, no, I just wanted that quick. I mean, 3 things you do, and we'll just go around the table.
I'm going to pass the microphone right
Oh, no, oh, no. Yeah, you use antibacterial soap many times a day.
I do. I also, I think diet is very important, and I think it's important to make sure that our diet is balanced. And I may not be a vegan, but I think we're very careful about what I eat. So I think that's an important
You got to make up 2 more.
Or I'll think about it when the microphone comes back around.
Exercise, restorative rest, and diet.
What's the last one?
Diet. Calorie-restricted diet.
But we're really looking for something else, something besides diet and exercise. Everybody understands that. We're all for that, but give us some meat.
Well, I don't know a lot about diet and exercise, and I really want to start. I did give myself 50 times the dose of exosomes that you would normally give someone. And I did see my wrinkles go away 8 months later. They came back 8 months after that. But that was a pretty interesting result.
Well, in addition to diet and exercise, I've made a conscious effort to try to minimize stress, try to put things in perspective, try to eliminate things that really don't matter anymore, to focus on the good, to minimize the bad, maybe watch less politics.
Well, for me, it's a little bit too soon to think about that, but definitely for what I'm actually thinking is definitely, like umbilical cord blood stem cell that we talked about, because of the anti-inflammatory components that it has, and if you are aging, as our stem cell is aging, and also an inflammation in our body, so I prefer to basically use current technology, which is a UCB, and also good sleep. I think sleeping is also matters. Again, I don't want to say diet. We all said, diet is very important. But yes, I think utilizing today's technology plus a good sleep, that will definitely help.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to tell you that I take a lot of supplements. I take all the right ones. So I take a little turmeric and some CoQ10 and other things. And I like to sleep when I can, and I certainly do enough exercise when I can get in the gym and my kids aren't waking me up or they'll let me to do that. I think probably one of the big changes for me over the years as I got older, pretty much from my 40s to 50s, I tried to eliminate carbohydrates. I used to love to eat bowls of rice and all that good stuff. And then, as physicians, we talk about burnout a lot. So we talk about stress. Well, I think the biggest thing is if you do what you love every day, you'll never work a day in your life. And we talk about having egosyntonic behaviors. And for a lot of you, I think that really means doing things that you enjoy doing so that every day you're not beating yourself up for whatever you're driving to.
Well, that's well said. Now, one of the things I do, I'm in my 60s now, later 60s, certainly go to low carbs, a lot of exercise every morning, 5 o'clock up exercising. And I do some intravenous stem cells a couple times a year, and I take a handful of supplements. And the one that I'm really fond about now is NAD. I'm really, after all my reading, I'm reading and learning that I have to turn on my sirtuin genes. I think everything we're talking about here, I think it comes down to one very important thing, our mitochondria. When those guys go, you're gone.
Are you taking NAD as NR with pterostilbene, with resveratrol?
That's an interesting thing. Pterostilbene is interesting, and it's spelled with a P, begins with a P. They say that's much more bioavailable than resveratrol. So I take them both. I'm hedging my bets, but yes, I take NAD. Now, interestingly enough, we're looking at something called an NAD kinase, because I don't think you get enough NAD even intravenously. So we're looking at increasing the enzyme in our body to make more NAD available to the cells.
IV, NAD IV.
Well, I do take it IV once in a while, take it orally every day, but again, go to my website one of these days. You could read the blog about NAD. We're developing a kinase. It's an enzyme to get the NAD delivered into the cell, and I think that's going to make a huge difference. You know, it's like having a warehouse full of product and you can't get it to consumers because you're delivering it by horse and buggy. Even with an IV treatment, it's still not as good as you can, but you know, something's better than nothing.
As you think about the things that I've done, I don't care if you're a stressed out physician, if you're a public listening to this right now, as you think about anti-aging and the things that you can practically do to live longer, as you consider the world of anti-aging and the practical concepts that you can take away from this right here, right now, is this. One of the things I've done is, from my perspective, it's truly a union. It's a mind, body, spirit. So for mind, I always listen to positive motivational ideas. I love going on Pinterest and I always read very positive, mindfully impactful quotes, ideas. I'm a mind guy, so I love to receive inspirational, positive thinking, forward thinking ideas, speaking to other people, affirmations. It's my thing, and I know I have a lot more energy and vitality and vibrancy than a lot of people a lot younger than me. So anyone listening to this now, I don't care if you're a stressed out mom, I don't care if you're an ER doctor who's going through things, or even family physicians. I know many of my friends around the country it's a stressful world out there today. If you're a corporate executive, or if you're whomever, when you put your mind into the right place, so know that you can create, you can choose your mindset. The other thing you can do is for your body. I start my day, I stretch, I'm intentional about being physical. Just today, I was just walking. And then the other thing is from a place of gratitude and emotionalize the good things that are happening. Like I think about my family and my children. I think about when your body, we're talking about senescence of cells here. We're talking about stem cells. We have the ability to turn on our cells. We are asleep. Our cells, parts of our body that are not healing properly, you can turn on the body's ability to heal itself. So you emotionalize confidence. Think of a time in your life right now that you can feel really confident. Just go back and think about it and feel it in your body. So make it truly a connection of mind, body, and spirit. This is something that we can all do. This is what I do, and I know it's very effective.
We got Dr. Weiss there. And Dr. Klass.
Yeah, I can agree with that. So for the scientists out there, and speaking from personal experience, I'd say if you want to live longer, don't do a postdoc, because a postdoc will kill you. It's rough. But in seriousness, hydration. Hydration is very important. I think drinking water is really underrated, but I think we need to all do it a lot more. And Doug and I, we seem to agree on a lot of stuff. And I think that a positive mind state, being very positive, try to ignore a lot of the BS that's out there, but just be really positive. I mean, I'm very active in the Lyme community. This is a very terrible disease, and it's growing by 300,000 people a year. And these guys really go through the ringer. So be grateful for what you have. Every day, you wake up grateful and be happy. And if you're lucky enough to have family, hug your family and be happy with your family, because one day it's all going to be gone. We're stardust. We're only here for a short period of time. Live in the moment and just try to be happy.
That's a very good point. Thank you so much. For myself, 3 interesting things that I'm involved in that I feel strongly about is, number one, I drive a big car, 6,000 pounds or more in your car, and if you get into an accident with another car, well, chances are you're going to come out on top. Not that I recommend that you want to come out on top, but it's better to come out. It's better to be there than on the bottom. So drive a big car, because trauma is still a leading cause of death. An automobile accident is a leading cause of death. I'm involved. I take metformin. I believe in metformin. It's been around for 60 years. It's a very safe drug. It probably is protective against type 2 diabetes. It certainly can help regulate blood sugar, and the benefits are very high, and the downside risks are low. So that's another item that we can add to our anti-aging regimen. The most exciting thing is education, and the education is coming so fast and so furious. So I kind of add that as my third item. I keep my ears open. I keep my ears to the ground, and through my position, I'm very blessed because I have access to all the major medical news and research sources around the world. But you can too. The American Academy of Anti-Aging Medicine is a nonprofit 501c3 public charity, and we spend millions of dollars creating worldhealth.net, www.worldhealth.net, and there are literally over 100,000, almost 200,000 references specifically on the topics that we've talked about tonight, on the topics of anti-aging, regenerative medicine, stem cells, cell biology. It's all there for you for free at www.worldhealth.net, and I would urge you to use that as a resource, an educational resource for yourself, because we're right on the cutting edge. And the American Association of Stem Cell Physicians is doing a fabulous job in helping to advance this technology, and they're another source of fantastic information, and I know they're going to have a very strong web presence. But in the meantime, if you want to know more about stem cells, you can learn about the American Association of Stem Cell Physicians by going to our website, worldhealth.net. And we're running out of time. You certainly can, but one second. We're running out of time, and that's really what this is all about. That's what anti-aging medicine is all about. It's about having the time to enjoy your life, to enjoy your friends, your family, to live and love, and to accomplish what you want on this planet before you check out. And that's what we offer, and that's what the American Association of Stem Cell Physicians is offering. And I really want to thank the man who's responsible for making this event happen, Dr. A.J. Farshian. Please, a big round of applause. Dr. A.J. Farshian, who is a pioneer in clinical stem cell research and clinical stem cell practice, and in regard to the practice of anti-aging regenerative medicine technologies. Dr. Farshian has incorporated these technologies into his practice and for his patients for as long as I've known him, which is over a decade. And one of the first people in Florida to be doing PRP technologies and stem cell technologies. And he is such a strong believer in this that he has reached into his own pocket to create this society. And I think he deserves a second round of applause. Thank you, Dr. Farshian. And thank you all for being here, and thank you for choosing anti-aging regenerative medicine. We are the future of healthcare. We are the next generation of healthcare. Everyone is following in our footsteps, and God bless you all, because you are the doctors, the scientists, the researchers who are making this happen for humanity. Thank you all so very much. And you had one last thing to say about
Well, yeah, really
diabetes?
quickly, I know a lot of you have tuned in tonight to learn about stem cells and stem cell-based treatments. Bear in mind that two of the big things that we will help you do is decrease inflammation and grow tissues. In the next 10 or 12 years, about 20% of the population will be 65 and over. And most importantly, when you get to 65, about 50% of you will be insulin resistant or type 2 diabetics. So both stem cells and stem cell products are going to help you in three ways. By decreasing inflammation, you will help insulin bind the receptors. You will decrease apoptosis, as the gentleman to my side realizes, you'll stop killing your beta cells and you'll prevent the beta cells from dying off that produce insulin. And maybe most importantly for all of you, as you get older, you will succumb to what's known as sarcopenia. Your muscles will start degenerating because you get what's called capillary rarefaction. Your capillaries, the little blood vessels that supply all the nutrients, will die off. By putting in stem cells and stem cell products, you'll build more capillaries, meaning that both insulin and glucose can have an easier access to the muscles. The muscles will grow because all of these growth factors will wake up the satellite cells, and the muscles, which are the most metabolic tissue in your body, will increase metabolism, thereby also lowering your glucose levels. So 3 take-home points, both stem cells and exosomes, for everyone here will help fight your type 2 diabetes.
Thank you all for viewing this, and thank you for tuning in. And I urge you all to be part of the Ageless Society and join us again when we present another roundtable discussion with the American Association of Stem Cell Physicians or with doctors from the American Academy of Anti-Aging Medicine. And again, the website of the A4M is www.worldhealth.net. Thank you all so much, and God bless.
Thank you, Dr. Klatz. Let's hear it for him. Amazing man, known as father of anti-aging medicine. Thank you, Dr. Klatz. Thank you, Dr. Khan. And thank you to the roundtable. Just wanted to make a quick announcement. We got the big party tonight. Big band's going to be there. Award ceremony. Make sure you're there. If you don't have your tuxedo, you have time to rent a tuxedo still. No. You're fine, just show up, all right? Tomorrow morning breakfast starts at 7 a.m. Tomorrow morning breakfast is sponsored by Stemwell Technologies. At 7:50 in the morning, we start tomorrow a 10 minutes presentation, and we start our main session. So thank you again for coming. This was a great, I was just looking at you can see this on YouTube, all right? And I was just watching. We had a lot of people watching it. So you can. I'm going to send the link to everybody so you can see it at home.
Dr. Forsman. You got to say.
Thanks so much.
Thank you all. Thank you. I'm going to go dump these off. That is so funny.
Oh, God.
I know. Oh, is that what you're doing?